Episode 2. In this episode, we will add or convert some of our primary inputs in our RTS template. While doing that, we'll demonstrate different input value implementations from what we've already covered in episode 1. So let's hook straight in. We'll go to the editor, we'll go to our actions, and we'll implement these action data assets that we're going to need for our inputs. So I'm going to just duplicate this first one. I'm going to call this IA look. And I'm going to go in and change this to a float, or an axis 1D float. And the other axis 1D float that we're going to implement is rotate. Duplicate that again. Rotate. I'm going to duplicate this one, and we're going to create IA zoom. We need to change that to just a bool. And then the other bool we're going to do is select. Part of the look, we're also going to need something to enable the look feature, so we're going to do another one called IA free look, which is also a bool. Yep. That's those done. So we just need to set the input values on those. Nothing else to change there. So we'll go to our input mapping, our default one, and we're going to add all those mappings. So we've got select, and that's simply just going to be the left mouse button. There's nothing else to change there. And then we'll do our zoom, and that's going to be wheel mouse axes. Wheel mouse axes. And I'm actually going to add a modifier here, because I'll just negate it. So wheeling down on your wheel mouse, like rolling towards yourself, will zoom out, and pushing forward on the wheel mouse will zoom in. You can do this in code as well, but good demonstration of modifier on something else here. Right, let's add our next one, rotate. So rotate's going to have two inputs. And it's going to be left will be Q and rotate right will be E. And for E, we want to negate that as well, because it will be the opposite direction. Like that. We need to add our free look, the mouse movement, change the angle of your camera, and that's going to be middle mouse. And then our last one is our IA look, which is the actual action. And different to our original project, I'm changing this up a bit. This is just going to be a mouse axis Y. You can do both here, so you can hold the middle mouse button and rotate and pitch, but after testing the project and using it in my actual game, I found that, and it was actually suggested to me actually, that this is a better feel, and when I changed it, I agreed. So this just changes the pitch now, so you can just change the angle up and down and use the rotate keys to change the rotation. Now we need to connect these two, so this is where we use a trigger, and we're going to use a chorded action, which is saying it needs another action to be active in order to trigger the input, and the chorded action is going to be that free look, which is the middle mouse. So you need to hold middle mouse and move your mouse to perform this look action. Right, that's all we need to do in there. So now we need to update our data asset, which is in C++. So let's jump over to that. So in here, nothing too crazy. We just need references to our new IAs. So I'm just going to paste this in. If you need to, oh, don't they move to us? Just pause the video if you need to copy that out, but it's just the same as the move, but different name. And we're going to add a new action here, because our select is a bit more complex than just a normal input. It's going to have a few more actions, and that will allow us to show how we can bind to multiple input events from one IA. So what we're going to add here is we're just going to add a macro or a template to bind 3 different actions. So if you remember from the first video, there's 5 basic input events. So we're going to bind to start, we're going to bind to triggered and completed, and we'll use that to do our box select basically. That's all we need to change there. So we'll need to just rebuild the project. Back inside our project, just come into your data asset and bind these IAs to their specific property. What's this one? Zoom. Select. and rotate. And that's all we need to change there, so that's done. Now we can set up our player pawn in C++. So back to our C++, we're going to add in the pawn, we're going to go to our input override, and we need to bind our inputs. So the first three are pretty easy. They're exactly the same as the move. We're just calling a new function look. We do have an existing, if you're following along, we do have an existing zoom, so I might just rename this to old for now, so it doesn't overlap because I want to use that name. So yep, that's all good. And then for our select, we're going to use that new template that we just set up. So we're going to call the start trigger complete bind that we created here. So the only difference between those two is we're binding one function here, and here we're binding three. So to do that, we just call the function, and we just have the input of the three functions to bind for the different, and then that will sort out the different events. So I'm adding a select hold, and a select end. Whereas before, these were left button down, left button hold, left button end hold or something we had. So let's implement those functions. So we've got our look, rotate, select hold, select end, and zoom. While we're here too, we'll rename this left mouse hit location. And I'm just going to call it select hit location to fit with our naming convention that we're using now. And let's implement those functions. And it's done them in line. That's good, isn't it? So now if we compare what we had for look before, should be these two, because we're doing both. So let's go vertical, because I'm just doing the pitch now. You can see it's basically just feeding in a new rotator. So I'm just going to do the same thing in our new one, pretty much, slightly different. So the first thing I want to do is just validate that we're getting the right input. We haven't messed up our settings anywhere in our IA. So we've got a float coming in. I'm going to create the float value so I'm going to add our rotate speed. I'm using rotate speed here. You could set up another value for look speed or something like that, but I'm just going to use our 25% of my rotate speed, so it's a bit slower. And then I'm just going to create a new rotator and put that into our target rotation. So I'm creating the new pitch. I'm adding the pitch to the rotation that I've already got. This is in the X value, the pitch value of the rotator. I'm passing over the yaw that I've already got, so the rotation left and right, and I'm zeroing out the roll because we don't want any roll. So for our rotation, we're going to do the same thing. Check that we're getting the correct value. We're going to create a new rotation based on our rotate speed. This is where we put in the negate to reverse the rotation. So when we're pressing E, it's going to be reversed to go to the right. You could reverse the value here in code if you wanted to. I think it was zoom actually we were talking about before, but so if you wanted wheel forward, zoom in or zoom out, you could have a setting that overrides the value and inverts it. So we're going to do the same as what we've done above. We're just going to move the rotation to the y-axis, so it's going to affect the rotation, and that'll be a value from either 0 to 1 or 0 to -1 to rotate left and right. All right, we'll do zoom next, so it's less complex than these. So once again, same thing. Check we've got a float value coming in, and then we're going to update our target zoom just with a clamp. So you don't want to zoom too far, and we're just grabbing that value directly, adding it to our target zoom, using it, multiplying it by our zoom speed. Otherwise, it'll only move by 1 each time. You'll barely notice it. All right, our select. So for their selects, it's worth checking what we've already got in our existing select. So it's going to be these left mouse inputs if you named them the same as me. So left mouse press is going to be our original select. This is going to be exactly the same. This is our select hit location that we just renamed. So we're clearing any selection that we've already got, resetting the box select, and storing the location that we originally clicked on, which will be required for box select setup later. And then for the select hold, we're going to check we've got the reference again. What do we got up here? So this is the hold. So here you can see we're doing like the mouse down threshold ourselves in a calculation, but we can set this in IA now. So if we want a delay, we can put it in there. I'm actually going to do a delay based on mouse drag. So we'll leave that out for now. So we just want this section here. And we're not using the input. That's why I'm not checking the value, because we're not actually passing a value. It's just a bool. It's either on or off. You could check that it's true, but the fact that it's bound to the input event, a trigger, means it's true anyway. So this one's going to run when you initially press it straight away before it's even triggered. This one's going to run while you're holding it down, and this one will trigger the end. So when you release and it completed, then we want to actually do the box select selection. So the one thing we want to add here is I want to just compare the location of when we're holding it to the original location. So when you drag the mouse more than this value from the hit location, it'll start the box select. If you do a quick selection and you actually just want to do a single selection, not a box selection, it'll stop it from activating box select straight away. You actually need to hold and drag, but then we'll use the original location for the start of the box select. So you won't like click here and then as you drag and you're over here, the box select won't start from here. It'll start back where you originally selected. So for the select end, we need to do our selection. So we're going to check whether we're doing a box select or just a single individual select. If we're doing a box select, the box selection will handle the selection. If we're not, we're just going to pass the selected object, which is a function we set up earlier, to do a line trace and get what's under the mouse cursor. So that's all we need to do to set up those inputs. Let's have a look in the editor. So let's give it a go. Our move's still working. Rotate is working. Pitch, it's a bit slow. And our zoom is not working. Or is it just too slow to see? What if it is the zoom speed? It is not the zoom speed. I think it's not working. Ah, that's meant to be a float. There we go. The zoom speed fixed it. It's a bit chunky, so it just instantly stops. So let's update our default. I set that to 300 in there. Might bring that back a little bit, so I'll just stop that. Reset that to default. And in the C++, probably shouldn't be setting these here either. Should be set in the constructor. So let's update that in our project as well while we're doing it. So we'll go to our constructor. We'll set our things. We'll set our zoom speed not to 300. We'll set it to 200. Say you can play with that. Set whatever you need. You might already have some settings too. Use whatever. And then we'll just remove these here. It's not really good practice to set the values in the implementation. And now to fix that chunkiness, we're going to add a new value here. So we're going to add something called smoothing. We'll set that in the constructor as well. I'm just going to set it to 2. You can play with that. Oh, while I'm here, I might fix this crap. me not paying attention in the original video. Yeah, here. So this is where we want to add our into the interp speed smoothing. So change all our speeds that we're using here to smoothing, and then that'll adjust each one and make it a lot better, as we'll see. Because we use high numbers for our speeds, it doesn't really work too well in here, and that's what's making it chunkily end rather than smoothing out over time, the lower time. Basically, the smoothing's happening really fast, we can't even see it. So let's have a look at that. So you got that sort of grace period, and you can speed that up or slow it down by changing that number. A lot smoother now. Oh, we probably need to change that value. Just want it a bit faster, the free look. Otherwise, it's looking pretty good. Now let's clean up our old C++. We've done those. The rotate horizontal we're not using anymore, or if you are, you can combine that into the one function anyway. And we've done the vertical. Input held is built into the select now. Rotate right and left is set through just the rotate function. So that was the hold middle mouse to enable and disable rotation, and that's our left mouse press, left mouse release. So we've covered all those keys there, and you can see it's a lot simpler and it's a lot more flexible with what we can do. So let's tidy up those functions that we're no longer using. So forward, right, zoom, rotate, all of these. And that taking these out is going to break our edge scroll, so we'll need to fix that in a sec. What else? Don't think let's just remove those functions. Yeah, so that's broken our edge scroll. We'll come back to that. Now, can rotate, we shouldn't be using this anymore, so there's no use for that. And there's no use for this anymore. That was doing our, oh, that's right, we can take these ones out. So this is the, here we go, mouse left press, left hold. We haven't even implemented right, so I'm just going to take those out. And that, yeah, the threshold time, once we remove these, that's those empty right ones we didn't use. So now you can see this isn't used, there's no usages of that. And that should be everything. So now we just need to fix the edge scroll. So previously with the edge scroll, we we're just passing it a value to the right function. And we can just do the same, we could do the same thing, we could just pass a vector to our move function. But what we'll do is we'll just implement the same function as we have in move. So let's get move. So in move we're updating target location and then transforming it to the terrain. So let's just do the same thing here rather than pass it to move. And we only need to do this at the end. Now, rather than, obviously we don't have a value here unless you want to set up a key for edge scrolling, but we just need to pass in the vector. So if you recall from the move setup, it's just a vector 2 with x and y, with x being forward and back, y being left and right. So with this, we've got the right left, so this is the right hand side of the screen. So we want to just pass in a vector that's positive y. So what positive y is right. So we can just pass in 1 into the y like that. Pass a vector as the value. We don't want move speed now. I think we had an edge scroll speed. Yep. Oh, that's one I'm thinking of speed. We want to change the speed, didn't we? What was that? That was it was the rotate speed, wasn't it? It was the pitch speed. Yeah, the pitch. Hang on. I'll just come down here for a sec. So look, we'll change this to 50%. That'll speed that up. I think that's what was slowing it down. So back to this. So we can just copy this. And this one's going to be the negated version of this. So we can just make that -1. So this one is the bottom of the screen. I've got these backwards, but yeah, so this is actually, so this will be 0 now. And this will be 1. No, -1 because it's the bottom. So we want to go backwards. Let's copy that. and this will be +1 forwards. And that should fix our edge scroll. We'll turn that back on just to test it. Check what our edge scroll speed is. Might make this 30. I think that will be too slow now. And that should be it. Let's restart the editor. So let's just test our edge scroll. Up, left, right, down. Zoom. What was slow? Oh yeah, yeah, it's a bit better. Probably could be a bit faster again. It's better. Probably going to make that too fast now though. So yeah, it might be better off having that as a separate value, but so probably that speed, but back at the 25% or even higher. Sorry, not less, 75%. That concludes episode 2. We converted our project over to enhanced input fully. We implemented some additional enhanced input. In the next episode, we're going to look at input mapping overriding. The full series is available on Patreon and it will be released later to the public. If it's already been released, all episodes are linked in the description below. Thanks for watching.